Welcome to the question of the day. Today's question is from Jason in Oregon. And he asks, I'm moving into the sales leadership role and will start leading sales team meetings. What makes a good sales meeting? Great question. And this is a great topic. This is a great topic for sales leaders and for sales people. Sales leaders, this is a great topic because you're the one leading them, right? As John Maxwell says, you're the one that knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. This is a big part of how you do it. Salespeople, this is what's going to create a consistent routine for improvement and success. And so both have a vested interest in making sure that this is as good as possible. So as far as the sales meeting, first thing I want to say is we want to shift our thinking on the sales meeting. It's not a sales meeting. It's a sales training. Think about it. Like, what do you really got to meet on? Okay. Like, there's going to be some housekeeping things like updates on the company, updates on the product, something like that. Like, probably not going to take more than 15 minutes. So these are things that could probably be done in an email, probably could be tossed into a one-on-one, or if you needed, I guess you could package 15 minutes of this sales training each week and have like a meeting portion where you do housekeeping items. But there really shouldn't be a lot of housekeeping items. Numbers, like things like numbers, you should be going over those individually in your one-on-one. When it comes to numbers, I think a mistake a lot of companies make is that they make it super competitive. And I thought this way for a long time too. My thought process was, I'm going to put it on a big board behind me, right? And then everybody's going to see the leader. And then everybody's going to want to chase the leader. And it's going to create competition. And the success comes out of competition. Like, honestly, in my experience, everybody else just shuts down because the top guy is always on top and everybody else just, well, I'm just going to be second, I guess. And so numbers, I mean, really, that should be a you versus you competition. Like that should be talked about in your one-on-one. You're here. Where are you supposed to be according to your goal? Or where were you last month? Can we be a little better than last month? It should be more of a you versus you. That way, everybody is constantly moving towards greatness. Major issues like that might be something that would come up. But I would say if it's a major issue, it should be its own separate meeting. It probably shouldn't take place in the weekly meeting. So like all these things, like none of this should fit into that weekly meeting. And that's why it should be a training, because as a team, we are consistently trying to get better. Every week, there should be one thing that we're all getting better on and we're inserting into our process. Because think about this. Think about what success looks like here. If we do this right, and there's one thing each week, just one thing, not a bunch of things, one thing each week that we improve on, at the end of the year, our team will be doing 50 things that we weren't doing the previous year. I say 50 because there's holidays and PTO and stuff, right? But like 50 things that your team will be doing a year from now that they're not doing now. How do you think that's going to affect your closing percentage? How do you think that's going to affect your average sale? That's going to be huge. Think about, okay, wherever your team's at now, look at how many calls you ran this year, and then look at your closing percentage and look at your average sale. And I don't know what you think would be accomplished, but let's say 5% higher closing percentage and just $500 more average sale. Take that times the leads you had for an entire year. That number is going to be millions of dollars. That's what this is worth. Millions of dollars. And if you're a large company, even more. So that's what it's worth to us to do this every week, to have a training each week. So shift your thinking. It's not a sales meeting. It's a sales training. And that sales leader, you're responsible for leading it. Salespeople, you're responsible for making it a good training. So the training, where do you get the topics, right? Comes from the ride-alongs. Like when I do an on-site with a member, when I go out and visit them, first thing I do is I go ride along. Because like, let's face it, I got like 3 or 4 days to figure out some opportunities and like make it worth your while for having me out there. And so I'm going to ride along. That's the quickest, fastest way that I'm going to identify some opportunities. You're doing this too. You're riding along with the team. And in those ride alongs, you're seeing opportunities that the whole team would benefit from. So, like if one guy is not doing something, address that in a one on one. Don't make that a team training. Don't punish everybody else to have to go through that when they're already doing it. But you'll see plenty of opportunities that the whole team would benefit from. Those are the things that you train on. Now, I would ask this question. Think of it like this. Think of a pirate ship. There's this grand pirate ship on the ocean. And answer this question for me. What is the most important part of the pirate ship? Is it the sails? Is it the deck? Like, what is it? Well, the answer is the crow's nest. Crow's nest is the most important part because the crow's nest, that's where you can see far. You can see the issues that are coming. You can see the challenges out on the horizon. Being a sales leader is the same way. You're not just thinking about what am I doing today. You don't want to have that narrow vision of just focusing on the now. You want to be looking out. You want to be casting a vision for the future. And that's what you're doing here. As you do these ride-alongs, you will see enough opportunities that come up that the whole team would benefit from. And I don't care how good you are, there's always opportunities. But there'll be opportunities that you'll be able to start planning out the next 10, 12, 15 weeks. Like I should at all times as a sales leader know this is my next 12 weeks of training. These are the next 12 things that we're going to get better on and insert into our process. And so I should have that long-term vision of what are the things that I'm going to be training on. Now, when I do these trainings, they should be weekly because I want to do this every week. That's a good repetition to get in, to train something, implement it, and have success. And you're just focusing on one thing. So it's not a bunch of things I'm trying to juggle. One thing, and then I can come back the next week and do it all again. These trainings themselves, though, should be about 30 minutes long. 30 minutes seems to be an appropriate amount of time to do a training, to keep everybody's attention, to make it stick. You could stretch it out to 45 minutes. I've seen some companies do an hour. I think an hour tends to get a little long. Some companies will do like 45 minutes and then 15 minutes of those upkeep type items. But I definitely wouldn't go over an hour. 30 minutes seems to be the sweet spot. And my thinking on it is the mind cannot comprehend what the rear end can not endure. So like if I can't sit there anymore, I'm not thinking too much about what we're training on. And so 30 minutes seems to be the sweet spot. Now, as a leader, you want to be planning these trainings out. So you've been riding along, you got this list of like, these are the next 12 things we're going to train on. Now you want to start planning it out. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to lie and say I have planned out every single training I've ever done. But I can tell you the truth that every training I've ever planned was way better than the ones where I just stepped in and I was winging it. When you have a plan, you will be more successful. Same goes into training. There are training studies that say however long your training is, your preparation should be about 4 times longer. So if we're talking about a 30-minute training, it should take you about 2 hours to prepare that training. That's a long time. But these studies go into how effective the trainings are and how well they're adopted into the real world. And if you're just winging it, it's not sticking real well. It's not going to be a good training. It's not going to stick. There's going to be confusion. And I've never seen a high-performing confused team. So 2 hours or whatever, but there's preparation. You want to prepare a good lesson. Now, here's what I see often. I see companies, this would be a bad example. I often see companies where they'll just walk in and say like, well, hey, I want to make this training good for you guys. What do you want to talk about? Right? Maybe there's some altruism into that. I think it's a lot of lazy or too busy that I didn't have time to plan it. And so I'm just trying to wing it. But I don't want to do that because here's what happens. Sales, we're really good at steering conversations in different directions. And usually that direction is away from me. Like, it's not me, I'm doing great, but here's a problem. You might want to talk to these guys about that or whatever. When you give up control of what the objective of the training is, it's not going to be an effective training. Now, this still happens even if you plan it out. You may plan it out and sales will still try to steer you in a different direction. Like, well, I don't want to talk about that because that's now you're going to start getting into things that don't make me look good. So I want to talk about this instead. And that's where like you have to be diligent to stay the course here. If you're planned out and somebody tries veering you off of the plan, you can pull back. You can say, hey, that's a great question. Let's address that in the one-on-one. Or, hey, let's kick that to a separate meeting. That sounds like that would be its own meeting. Let's kick that to another meeting and stay focused on our topic here. So you can get good at that of when you're pulled out, kicking those things to another meeting or a one-on-one or addressing it after the meeting so that you can stay onto your plan. But first, you got to have a plan. So what does that plan look like? Now, before I was in sales, I was actually a teacher. I taught for a number of years. I taught fifth grade, I taught second grade, but that's what I went to school for. I went to college to be a teacher. And when I had my first year teaching, we had a policy at the school where on the whiteboard, whatever lesson I was teaching, I had to write SWBAT. And that stood for student will be able to. And the idea was that all of my lessons, I was beginning with the end in mind. By the end of this lesson, the student will be able to whatever that is, okay? And if the principal was ever to walk in and observe a lesson, they could see exactly what I was teaching and they could gauge, is the teaching lining up to what the students will be able to do at the end of that? You're going to do the same thing. At the beginning of the lesson, I want you to think like Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He says, begin with the end in mind. I want you to do the same thing, except we're not students, we're employees. So you're going to put EWBAT. Employee will be able to whatever that thing is. Think of that for your lesson. What is the one thing? And don't do a bunch of things, because if you do a bunch of things, that's like trying to juggle and be successful. We just want one thing. One thing we can implement each week. Because remember, that's 50 by the end of the year. So what's the one thing they're going to be able to do by the end of this training? Keep it simple. So define that. Don't make it like an entire step of the process. If you say we're going to go over the exploratory step, that's one thing. No, that's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that go into the exploratory step. A better topic would be we're going to focus on how to ask an open-ended question. The employee will be able to ask an open-ended question by the end of the lesson. That would be a good example that the employee will be able to do. One thing. So now, as you start building your lesson, and I have templates I can share with you. If we jump on a one-on-one call, I can share these templates with you, but you have an opener. It's really 3 parts. You have an opener, the first part. The opener is like 5 minutes. The opener is something that makes you feel something. It gives you an emotion. It catches your attention, right? Like if you go to a training, this could be a question that is asked that gets you thinking, or a video clip that is showed, or a story. Like there's something that opens up the topic, gets you moving, gets you thinking. Then you transition to the middle. That's like the meat of this sandwich here. So the middle is probably about 20 minutes long. This is where most of the learning is taking place. Now, the mistake I see a lot of companies do is they preach the entire 20 minutes or they lecture. Nobody likes being lectured at, me included. And so if it's a good training, what you want to do is you want to come up with ways that create activities or games, gets people up, gets people moving, gets them doing the work, gets them solving the problem. I am much more bought in and I will learn a lot more when I am the one solving the problem. I am up and moving. I'm not just getting lectured to. That's how people learn when they do the work. Think about it. It ties into all the learning styles. There's auditory, visual, kinesthetic. So auditory that I hear, right, and I retain. Visual, I see and I retain. Kinesthetic, I get my hands on it. I get up and moving. And most people in the trades are kinesthetic. So we do want to lean into that. Get up, get moving. You can even look to Google Bloom's taxonomy, Blooms, Bloom's taxonomy, or Google hierarchy of learning. Hierarchy, however you spell it is correct. I'm sure Google will figure it out. But look at those and you'll see images of how people learn. There'll be like a pyramid, and at the bottom is going to be lecture. That's going to be like the lowest form of learning. The highest forms, as you go up that pyramid, you're going to see the more engaged you are, the more you're moving around, the more you're solving the problem, the more learning is actually taking place. So strive for that in your lessons, that you're not just preaching at people. And okay, so how do I come up with the activities? How do I come up with the things? Here's how you do it. You steal. You steal from others, right? There's all kinds of sources out there. There's other trainings you've been to. You can steal things from your church, steal things from something you see on TV, or networking opportunities, or back when you were in school, right? Like there's probably some game you played as a sixth grader that you could easily transition. Adults have fun with these things too. I've done a lot of things with adults that when I taught it to children, it was fun, but adults had just as much fun too. So like, steal it. Start looking for how are others transferring information, and then steal that and make it your own. So that's how you come up with those good exercises. And this all then transitions into a close. 5 minutes at the end, but this is something that brings it all together, that drives it home. We now have a solution, an answer. This is where the employee should be able to do the thing that you said they should be able to do. But this is the question you got to ask yourself and be able to answer. How do you know learning took place? Think of it like you're a lawyer and you're about to present your case to the judge. Like the judge is going to want evidence. They're not going to take just your gut feeling like, oh yeah, they got it. They want evidence. What evidence shows learning took place? If you can start dialing that in, and that's going to be something like an assessment, a test, a quiz, an observation. Like they modeled it. I walked around and I watched every one of them. When I do the objection boot camp, I have an entire test out rubric where they can test out with me and I score them according to the rubric. And I give them the rubric at the end of the boot camp. So they know it's like getting a test and you know what the answers are. I'm giving you the exact test, but then you have to perform it to me. But I do that because then I know learning took place. I can then say, yes, you are objection boot camp certified. Go out and implement this into the real world. But if you can answer that question, how do you know learning took place? That's going to increase your adoption into the real world. And that's the real key, adoption. If we're not adopting this into the real world, we're wasting our time. We're wasting our breath. The things that we're training, that one thing that we're building this lesson for, I want that after the training to be implemented in the field. And I should then see this in my next ride-along. So when I do my next round of ride-alongs, I see it in the field. And if I don't see it in the field, I would address it in my one-on-one. Hey, we trained on that thing, and I noticed you didn't do it on your calls. What's up with that? There's really only two responses that are going to come out of that. It's going to be, I didn't feel comfortable doing it, which that's cool. We can practice more. Or, I think this is dumb and I chose not to do it. That's a whole different conversation, right? That's a attitude culture conversation and do you fit here conversation. But that, I mean, that's it. Like we should see it in the field. So if you're following this process to do your sales trainings each week, you'll see this in the field. Now, I said at the beginning of this benefits sales leaders and it benefits salespeople. Salespeople, you have an opportunity here that if your team is doing this, you will have one thing that is helping you get better at your craft every single week. Think how much better you're going to be a year from now when you have 50 more tools in your tool belt. Think how much higher your total commission is going to be when you have those 50 additional tools. Think what you can do with that. Whatever your reason, whatever your why is that you do this for your family, for your kids, for private school, for that vacation, for that fishing boat, whatever that is, this is that path to get you there. So if you are a sales leader, your takeaway is define and plan out your next training in accordance to that employee will be able to. If you're a salesperson, this is your takeaway. Drive your leader to train like this. Drive your company, your team to train like this. Or worst case, offer to lead this yourself. You don't need a title to be a leader. And mastery of learning is being able to teach others to do it. So if you can teach these concepts to others, that demonstrates you have mastery of that concept, and that will make you better in the field as well. But we need to do these weekly. As iron sharpens iron, so as one person sharpens another. That's today's question of the day. If you're enjoying the question of the day, follow, share, give it a rating. Question of the day is on major streaming platforms. And if you're not enjoying question of the day, keep it to yourself and you're probably not listening anymore anyways. So if you have a question, reach out to me either on social media or email. Both are going to be listed in the show description. Let's get your question answered. And if you're a Next Star member, schedule a call with me. Let's address this one-on-one. Let's get specific to your situation. I'm Coach Chris. We'll see you tomorrow.